Hello, I'm the Greek Geek because I'm 50% Greek and 100% a geek. You've probably heard it 100 times by now, but this movie has so many similarities to the original Highlander movie, and I guess the Highlander franchise as a whole. Immortal warriors that protect humanity and, well, they don't decapitate themselves in this one, but it's similar in having immortal warriors that have lived throughout the ages. So there are these four immortal people that have been protecting humanity throughout the ages, protecting humanity by killing humanity, really. And a new immortal is discovered, and they are being hunted by a pharmaceutical company that's owned by Dudley from Harry Potter and the CIA. So the story goes exactly how you think it would and doesn't hold any surprises at all. And it's not a very memorable story either. It's very basic. They find this person that's an immortal, introduce them to their little team, and they have to take on this CIA and pharmaceutical company. Yep, watching this, thought, holy shit, that's Dudley from Harry Potter, and good thing that he is still getting acting work. He's lost a lot of weight. I liked most of the characters. I didn't love them. The actors that are in it, Charlize Theron, Kiki Lane, Matthias Schoenaerts, I want to say, Marwan Kenzari, Luca Marinelli. So they play all these characters, Andy, Niall, Booker, Joe, Nikki, and I can't tell you that much about them, really. The characters aren't that deep or very interesting. There's not really even that much to differentiate them. They kind of just all have the same kind of character. And they're a bit bland. Like, they were okay. I didn't buy any of the banter between them. Like, you don't really get the feeling that these people have known each other for hundreds of years. And that's a bit of a disappointment. Like, if you have these characters that have known each other for hundreds of years, you want there to be chemistry and banter and that kind of thing, so you believe that they've known each other for that long. Charlize Theron, I think, gave the best performance in the movie. Like, she really portrayed the warrior that doesn't give a shit and has seen everything very well. Like, you can tell, like, when she's fighting the new immortal, that she's just, like, taken her to school, really. She has that much experience with fighting and that she doesn't even really need to take her seriously, and it's basically like a game to her, and she's just smiling and just casually beating the crap out of her. And Kiki Lane, who played Niall, I think she did a tremendous good job with acting as well. She appropriately responds to being immortal. Like, it's not casually just said, oh, I'm immortal. Okay, cool. She's like in denial of it. She's having a hard time believing it. She still gets like shot and really injured, and she's like, why would you do that? Like, react how we would to getting those kind of injuries. But then she's like, oh wait, I'm immortal. I don't need to worry too much about it. So good job to Kiki Lane. It's tricky to say. The action is very well choreographed, probably even a little bit over choreographed in some instances. When Charlize Theron is just ripping on some CIA agents or whatever, it's just too damn choreographed. It doesn't feel brutal and gritty. Like, they're stabbing people with swords and axes and melee weapons and that kind of thing. And you don't feel it. There's no weight to people getting punched and cut down and stabbed and all that kind of thing. The sound for it doesn't sound very good and have any kind of real effect to it. It just sequences happening again and again, and there's no oomph to it. It does get very bloody though, very bloody violence, but not as gory as I would have thought. So these people are getting stabbed, shot repeatedly. The wounds look very good. When they're healing up from their wounds, it looks very good as well. That's probably where most of the CGI budget went, but more into that later. The music aggravated me a little bit. It's just, all the music just reminded me of a generic teen drama TV show for Netflix. And it's just bad. It did not fit with the tone of the movie at all, and I was actively rolling my eyes every time a new song started to play. It's just like generic pop music for a lot of it. Surprisingly, not too much time is dealt with in world building. There's not that much to explain why these people are immortal. Like, we don't even really get the answer to that question. How are they immortal and why? Unless I zoned out halfway through the movie, I'm not sure. And it leaves a lot of questions. There's some questions I have. If they get decapitated like they do in Highlander, do they heal from that? Is there an extent to their injuries that they can't come back from? I don't know. I like the change they did. It's not like These people are immortal, nothing can kill them whatsoever. They do have a limit on how long they can survive for. They live for a lot longer, so they're not really immortal because they can die eventually. It just might take hundreds or even in some cases thousands of years. And I think that's kind of realistic with the limitations, extended life, but you're not immortal. So I like that touch to the movie. The healing and people's bones being broken, limbs being all disjointed, and blood, guts, all that kind of thing, and that healing up all looks pretty good for the most part, except for some broken fingers which look fake as fuck. And speaking of fake as fuck, there's a scene where there's an aeroplane and it's just bad. It's bad CGI, so I think all the budget went into making all the effects for the wounds healing up look good. If you're like me, you had no idea that this was adapted from a comic, so there's a comic book series of the same name. It's been adapted from that. Fucking surprise, surprise, everything's an adaptation of a comic nowadays. Doesn't even really have a real everyone says that this is a change to the superhero genre and all that. It barely classifies as a superhero movie in my opinion. It just feels like a low fantasy in our times movie, if that makes sense. And from what I've heard, it is a faithful adaptation of the movie. There are some changes, but that's good. You're a fan of the comic book series? Check the movie out. So, before I get into spoilers, would I recommend the movie? I would recommend it if you're a fan of action movies. If you've seen the movie Highlander, it has a lot of similarity to that and enjoyable in that sense. If you're a fan of the comics, check it out, obviously. Casual moviegoers, probably not really your cup of tea. It can get quite boring at times, and a lot of it is forgettable. Nothing stuck with me. I was talking to my girlfriend about it today, and she forgot that she even watched the movie. You're not going to remember it, trust me. Twist: one of the main characters betrays Charlize Theron and changes sides again eventually. So saw that twist coming. When they get raided by the CIA, he's left alive and not captured like the rest, so obviously you're like, oh, there's something else up here. He's obviously gonna betray them, and he does. And there's a change to the comic as well. Andy was supposed to die, I think, but she doesn't. She just loses her immortality, I think. Fuck, I can't even remember this movie properly. I think she loses her immortality and she's essentially just a regular person. I might be wrong on that. Please let me know. And yeah, that's all I got to say about this movie. It is forgettable for the most part. There's a couple of action sequences that I remember. I like the premise, but the whole thing kind of falls a bit flat. So, as always, thank you for listening to me ramble on about a Netflix movie for a few minutes. I really do appreciate it. Thank you again, and I'll catch you next time.